Good evening, travelers of the night. Welcome back to The Stranger Season 3, where the immersion of an audio drama meets the chaos and uncertainty that is Dungeons & Dragons. This is the result of playing a session and then doing a session. Today we are joined by Matt as Nihilus von Stonen.
Correct. For all of you with probably comments who posted, there is a stone and veil and a veil and stone in Kieranstone. Lovely place.
Asteria as Dr. Isadora Glass.
This time Wes is the chaos. I've got nothing.
And I will continue to be the chaos. Wit as Gilfaith.
To be sure, not all that glitters is gold.
And we're also joined by Mike from Arcane Focus D&D. They are introducing a new 5e actual play named Vintier. Check it out, because I'm sure it's going to be great, judging by the amazing performance we saw in the last session and what we will continue to see. Any last words?
Bailiff, can I get my final phone call, please? Been in here for days.
There's no rules here. This is the world of imagination. You don't get your call.
Damn it.
Everybody, let's look forward to another great session of The Stranger. Nihilus and Dr. Glass, please both roll a d10. You're looking for the higher number. I have a decision to make. I'm going to leave it up to chance.
3.
Just like my name, I got an average of 5.
Okay. In that case, the vignette for this session belongs to Nihilus. Nihilus, on this rest, you have some time to contemplate all of the life choices that have got you here. This was a sitcom. We might have a voice over, "You're probably wondering how I got here," as you look down and you see the bottom half of your body has completely rotted through the bed. Your robes flat against the upholstery. There's a dripping sound that might be you underneath. And in this time, you have a moment of contemplation. The last thing we saw in the last episode was some harsh questions of why do you trust the testimonium to tell you who to execute, and why does that trust end when you are asked about your father? I wonder in this time, what is Nihilus thinking?
Inspecting his own body, curiously enough, maybe it's to distract, maybe it's to understand, or a way for him to deal with it. He's investigating his own body to see if it has any comparison with Trevor's disease. Trevor's curse.
You inspect the small maggot that crawls out of one piece of withered bone and meat that has fallen off, and you look at the flesh, what little flesh there is. It's remarkably different in that Trevor's had these spider veins and medical-like necrosis. Yours is necromancy, a forced and immediate disassembly of these organic parts. Beyond that, can you roll for me an investigation check?
Will do. A natural 20 for a total of 28.
The more you go down the path of learning those dark secrets that Mordecai promised, the more you start to understand the matters of the arcane as they relate to death and life. And just as those maggots that crawl in the skin are alive, so could be its flesh. Healing magic, after all, is bringing life. But where does it come from when you cast a healing word? And why does it connect meat and tissue and heal, when necromancy is oddly similar? Because that rotten flesh, it comes back together. Under your command, sure, sometimes with dead that could be raised. But still, it brings new life and function to these parts. And with a natural 20, you note that you may have the power to save yourself. If you control the undead, and you are more undead now than you are living, maybe you can control yourself. What would you like to do?
As he continues to delve, feeding himself, he's losing to Mordecai. Mordecai is this powerful entity that he's trying to deal with in order to move forward in this necessary story of unfortunate events. He feels like he would be powerless without it. Yet perhaps there's a way for Nihilus in order to make it less horrible for himself. Or maybe this will just make it worse. He's gonna try to find a moment where everyone indeed is sleeping, get some distance. And this might be painful, this might get him...
I'm sorry, did you say distance?
Yeah?
Sir, you don't have legs.
Oh, he's gonna crawl, if he can.
So you with your one remaining arm, because the other has withered off, you grab onto the edge of the bed, and a light tumble of the remaining unrotten of the corpse tumbles to the ground, and you drag yourself out of the room.
In a painfully manner, so yes, he does. He crawls with every inch he gruntily moves forward with pain that it has. He's ashamed of what he has become right now, and quite desperately so, yet tries to keep it to himself for as long as he can. Try to make sure that the rest are not too worried about his state, even though he should be a lot more worried. He tries to go around the corner as far as he can, and he will indeed try to raise dead on himself.
Nihilus, we discovered the new mechanic of restraint, and you have great power. I wonder, as you cast Animate Dead, whether you can show restraint. Can you please roll a restraint check?
Will do. This being a d20 and proficiency modifier, if I understood correctly.
And that's a DC of the spell level plus 10. What is the spell level?
The spell level is 3, although he would be able to cast it at 2nd level, thanks to his awesome book. Yet he would fail, as he got a 7 plus 3 for a total of 10.
Now, the restraint checks are meant to be a narrative tool. Their power can vary. This is no restraint, and you, Nihilus, get your abilities not from Saurus, but from Mordecai now. You feel the worms in the ground, you feel the maggots in what flesh you have remaining, and you can see, rather, you can feel all of that bone that litters this place. You, like Dr. Glass, being conscious of psychic energies, you are conscious of energies of death. And this power, it surges through you. If Mordecai could smile, he would be grinning ear to ear as your body starts to reform. The skeletal and meat and fungus, all living, undeathly things, gather around your missing parts. Its visage, below, approximately halfway up your chest, is unsightly. It reeks of undeath and would be terrifying to any regular person. But it doesn't stop there, because your power over undeath could be just as powerful as Mordecai's if unkempt. And there's chattering of the skeletons throughout this place. The ground, it simmers, and you hear movement in these halls. You may have raised a little bit more than yourself. And that's when you start to hear it, as your body is now back, made from these discarded pieces of rot and flesh and filth and bone. as you stand, this new man, bit more than a stain on your robes, I would say. You hear a step and a drag, and a step and a drag, as a skeleton limps in your direction. And I'll pause there for a moment. What is Nihilus doing?
He's trembling. He's afraid. He is controlling magic that is out of him. That's more than what he can handle at the moment. He feels lost, but hearing that, seeing that, coming for him, the first thing that comes to his mind is it under his control? He tries to exert his mental prowess over it, just like he did before.
You sense what you might be controlling. And as you close your eyes and you reach out, almost in the same way Dr. Glass might, you sense 12. No, 13 souls returned to empty husks, none of which are under your control, and all of which are crawling in your direction.
Do I wake them up? How am I going to explain the situation? What? Too late. And he knocks on a door or a wall. Get up!
As you're jolted awake, Dr. Glass and Gilfaith and Kristoff, you see in the doorway, half man, half monster, but clearly Nihilus, ushering you.
Nihilus. What has happened to you?
I'll explain in a moment, with an apology that comes with it, as I do require your immediate assistance, if you would please. There seem to be things coming for us, and with things I mean the undead. Dr. Glass, remember that one conversation we had not too distant ago, where you would ask me if I were to tell you if I feel like I'm out of control? Yes, I'm out of control. This is the moment where I'm past it. I need help. Now.
Oh, Dr. Glass was already reminding herself, you don't have dreams, Dora. This cannot be one. And Nihilus saying, I was listening to you and I'm out of control, she really has to remind herself louder that it is impossible for this to be a dream.
Now.
All right, yes. Which way are they coming from?
You hear the crackling, bony noise from down there? Kristoff, there wouldn't be any security measures around this place, would there be?
We have some of the guards outside, but,
Pumpkins.
yes, the guards. What direction are they coming from?
There's about a dozen of them clanking their way from there, crawling from the...
Kristoff, you point to the door. Nihilus, you point to the undead. Let's hope you're not pointing in the same direction.
I point in the direction, I suppose in the same way that Nihilus is pointing, since I believe that's where the patio is.
One of the skeleton's feet steps through the gourd, piercing it as he makes his approach. And at this moment, I'll need everybody to please roll initiative.
Dr. Glass, 8.
Kristoff, 6.
Gilfaith 6.
Nihilus got a 12.
And what is the dex for Gil and Kristoff?
16.
A 12.
That answers that.
You got a winner. Dun, 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 dun.
Nihilus, you got us into this mess. And standing in the doorway, as you turn around, having notified everybody that there are skeletons coming and you've lost control, you turn around and there you see 12 skeletons marching, dragging their feet and weapons in your direction.
He kind of grabs a pebble from the floor and tosses it in their general direction, toss it at their head at an annoying point to have a sense of, how harmful can they really be?
Please roll investigation.
Will do. For a total of 17.
The pebble strikes clear through one of his skulls. Clearly, it looks brittle. How dangerous they are, though, that is another story entirely. Would be difficult to tell from here, but you can tell that they are fragile.
With that, Nihilus moves onto a position to get close to them, trying to get aggro. He has his shield equipped, this mighty kite one that he grabs from his back, and he has his red testimonium in his hand. And from it, the pages flip, and he will cast, for a second level spell, Spirit Shroud, as from the red testimonium as a bonus action. Suddenly there is this coldish aura, necrotic, radiant aura. It flashes in different colors that just transmits to a veil of 10 feet around him that would just slow any that would approach him. And then for his action, he would take the dodge action. As he says, behind me! He prepares for an oncoming onslaught. He gets as close as them as he can, even in melee range with some.
Nihilus, you run forward, taking a position between the party and the skeletons. You cast this aura and everybody can see it fall upon Nihilus, his half-human, half-undead form. The skeletons, however, they're aggressive. And some of them fast, because the ones in the back using their dash action to run around the other side of Nihilus to the back line, surrounding Dr. Glass and Kristoff. Gilfaith is strategically positioned between Nihilus and the other two, where he's in a relative place of safety, but those who have dashed to Glass and Kristoff now surround them, and those around Nihilus are going to all take an attack.
All right, please do so with disadvantage.
With disadvantage, these 4 skeletons that are surrounding you have rolled a 12, a 12, an 18, and a 17.
As the 18 and the 17, they just barely make it over the kite shield. Nihilus, he looks like he's going to protect himself with some kind of protective aura, but suddenly there's something pulls him back and he lets them hit him.
They're doing average damages, so that's going to be 6 points of damage for Nihilus twice. And that would be bludgeoning damage.
Takes it and grunts.
Dr. Glass, it's your turn, and just to paint the picture for you here, all of these skeletons from the back line have dashed, moving incredibly, unnervingly quickly, the clattering of their bones, some of them moving on all fours, to have surrounded you.
She does not like any of this nonsense, and they're adjacent to us. They are right there, right?
They're right there. You're practically surrounded.
She is going to immediately reach for her trusty pocket watch, and Kristoff is going to hear a piercing sound as she casts Shatter. She's going to cast a 3rd level Shatter, and that is now a DC 17 con save. Let's rattle some bones. A piercing sound emanates from directly behind this line of skeletons right in front of them. It emanates out in a sphere like a sonic bomb. So it's going to blow into these skeletons from behind them.
Okay. With a DC of 17, none of them succeed.
Excellent. And I upcast it, so that's 4d8. So 11 thunder damage.
You see as the lot of them are torn apart, not entirely. Bits of bone shatter in all directions, and what little of them remains, one arm here, a torso and a leg there, they're still approaching, but all on death's door.
Kristoff hears a whisper in his ear. You survived here this long. You're not going down that easy. And he has bardic inspiration.
And with that, Gil, it's your turn.
Gilfaith quickly bends down and uses bonus action to set the needle onto the record, and this eerie music begins to play in the chamber. Looking up, he sees that stone build up in the middle of the room and quickly, gracefully ascends it.
Ah, who would have thought even in the midst of this descent, there's a stage.
And he smiles to himself, and aiding him to climb this bundle of rocks, these shadows start to come out of his feet from his slippers. At the top of that pillar, he begins to perform several different dance moves, all in succession, balances that should be impossible for the normal body to be able to sustain if not for the shadows helping him. And in this, he performs a grand adage, and from that, 6 of the surrounding skeletons have to make a dexterity saving throw or be slowed. DC is 15.
2 of the skeletons succeed, but the rest are slowed.
Alright. As you can see, most of the ones that he was focusing on are all centered around Nihilus, but one was up top with the others.
Okay, Kristoff.
Kristoff nods towards Glass and looks towards the skeleton. Some of the bits and broken pieces of my gourd along the floor, across some of the foots and the ankles of some of these undead beasts. Looks to them all and goes, I am very welcome to any guest that shows up, but you were not welcomed. You start to see his chest starts to split. Bone starts to crack as a piercing of wood comes through his chest, splits open his rib cage, and inside you see guts covered in vines and growth. His face starts to bloom, jaw splitting down horizon and splitting outwards, much like maybe like a famous video game that has to deal with spores. Hair and eyes sink backwards as multiple spots start to pierce through his skeleton. His fingers start to grow, and his body becomes a bit bigger. You hear screams of out of my house. We'll spend an action to do a wild shape. Enact his symbiotic entity.
Interesting. And are you doing anything for your bonus action?
A hand grabs onto the one that's right next to me. No roll needed. I will hex it.
Immediately it's hexed.
Several spores and vines coming from my hand and veins start to surround it, wrapping it up. Not tying it outright, but infesting it.
And with that puts us at the top of the round. Nihilus, it's your turn.
Around the corner, he hears this growling sound. What's happening back there? But he is surrounded by skeletons. He needs to focus on what's going on. He's being surrounded, clattered in the face, yet he took it on purpose. He lured them even there, because as he looks towards the floor, under his shield, there's all these little flowers that he put there as a trap. Suddenly, for his action, he detonates his Mascarera Floreria as he casts a third level upcasted from his red testimonium Wither and Bloom spell. Please make me a 16 DC Constitution saving throw for every skeleton next to Nihilus.
All but one fail.
As they fail, these little petals on the floor, they suddenly burst up, and all different kinds of elements. Lightning, cold, fire, radiant, yet right under Nihilus himself, there's one that bursts open, this green, necrotic fungus that he smells up, and he will heal himself in the process.
Starting with Nihilus, that's a 15 to hit.
He blocks it with his natural armor shield.
There's a clang from the skeleton's limb to the shield, and it doesn't have any purchase. However, with Kristoff and Dr. Glass, both of you are surrounded. And if you're surrounded by 3 or more, it is a bonus of +5 to hit. It's not good to have enemies at all sides. And with that, starting with Dr. Glass, that's a 15, a 19, a 23, and a 21.
No! Shield. So the first one misses, but the rest hit.
And Kristoff, 2 of them will be a 17 and a 19.
Both hit.
Average damages means Dr. Glass, please take 6, 6, and then 6 points of bludgeoning damage. And Kristoff, please take 6 and 6. Dr. Glass, that makes 18, and Kristoff, 12. The skeletons, having surrounded you, are on all sides. The clattering of their bones, however withered by the spell you cast, destructing them almost nearly to death's door and beyond. Dr. Glass, it's your turn.
All right. Well, I'm up. That's more than half, but it's not like that's saying a lot. It's so tempting just to do the same thing again.
Nothing stopping you.
I can't get as many of them, but I can get rid of this situation, probably. So, a 2nd level shatter, please.
The 5 skeletons on the one side of you, where the majority are, a shatter, again, explodes behind them. And this time, with the majority of them on death's door, they explode into a smattering of glass-like, porcelain-like bone as it sprays onto the walls around, killing all 5 with just 1 remaining. Are you doing anything else?
I would like to telekinetically shove that 1 remaining one. It's a DC 15 strength save.
He's pushed 5 feet away. As Gil, it's your turn. There's 2 skeletons up. 1 behind Dr. Glass and Kristoff, and 1 next to Nihilus.
Feeling that Nihilus has things under control. After all, these are his. Gilfaith lithely hops down to the next ledge, and the shadows extend from his leg as he lifts it into the air in another pose. And he's going to use Sorrowful Strikes against this one that was pushed back. That is going to be a 25 to hit.
That's more than enough. How much damage is it?
7 damage as the shadow turns to the skeleton and wraps around its decomposing body, takes its formed arms and takes hold of the own debilitating arms of the skeleton, turns it to face Gilfaith, and begins to make it clap for the performance that it was given before it crushes the skeleton under the weight of its umbral shade.
You see the clapping of the bone until it just compresses and compresses into dust. And with that, Kristoff, there's 1 skeleton left next to Nihilus, and it's your turn.
I have an ability, but it only affects beasts or humanoid, and I understand that these are undead. But if you would allow it, I would like to activate my fungal infestation.
Totally allowed. Sounds awesome. Let's do it.
Just as Mr. Wolverton let loose these shadows to shatter the one behind me. Considering it's close to one of the walls, Kristoff, as a reaction before his turn, raises a hand and places it against the wall, and you see immediately these bubbled red and orange spores start to immediately appear, growing from the cracks. Starts to gather the joints, the skull, the rib cage, the arms and legs starts to prop themselves up. It comes at attention. Kristoff goes, I've had to make my own friends. So be a friend. Guard the back. And it is under my control.
Interesting. This is one of the dead skeletons, right?
Yes.
Okay. I would say for flavor, go ahead and take a turn with this skeleton.
No need. I simply want it as a friend. As my bonus action, seeing that the one that I have hexed has fallen apart, I grab into the white powder that is the bone, and I release these air spores, and passing on my hex onto the one that's still up. With strange alacrity and movement and strength, Kristoff will make his way towards the one that's closest to Nihilus. He reaches towards his back. No face on Kristoff. Just a bloom of a flower. Pulls from his spine what looks to be almost serrated bone and bark, and pulls out what almost is a facsimile of a scimitar, and will strike down to up at this creature and make an attack. That would be 16 to hit.
That hits.
I will add my damage die, my hex die, and because I have activated my spores, I will also add that die as well.
If the damage is more than 5, how do you want to do it?
I will let you know. Perfect. Certainly over 5, as I've got a total of 16. One strike. The skeletal remains are split even in 2, even though human bone is uneven, jagged, asymmetrical, was split in different ways. Right through the spine, up to the skull, split in half. Just as the dust from the bone starts to settle. Kristoff reaches out for it. Almost feels a little bit of what used to be life. You are not welcome inside my house.
Nihilus, as the last skeleton falls and we leave combat, you can feel Mordecai's influence, maybe a distant, ironic laughter, ever fading. We're out of combat. And just a quick description of where we are, having stepped out of the room to enact this combat. I suppose for you, Kristoff, we're in a foyer, but the Grand Hall is not too far off, and you can hear at this point, a constant wailing or a groan of wind that grows ever louder from this untraveled space. The rest of it, Kristoff has made it clear that he's familiar with every one of these halls. They're all part of his manor. That's where we are.
Jarvis! You let these folks come in without letting me know. You! And turns towards the skeleton that's currently under his control. Clean this up.
Skeleton goes and starts using its hands limply on the ground, trying to clean the different bits of skeleton.
I apologize, my new guests, for the state of my manor.
Understood. It's hard to find good help these days. She's staring at Nihilus. Nihilus, I presume. Why did that happen and what happened?
I'm sorry. As you can look at the state of me as he drops the concentration of the veil.
Could you describe again, Wes, what we see when we look at Nihilus right now?
It happened so quickly that all you noticed when you were jolted out of bed was a smell of rot and decay in the room. The bed where Nihilus was soaked through and gross. As you step out, you see from the torso down, Nihilus is comprised of organic and bone-like materials. If he is a necromancer, he has risen himself and is made of the substance that he controls.
It's kind of hard to gross Isadora out. You know, she went through the whole medical residency. She dissected cadavers. She also just has an interest in the abnormal. And even when she got out of physical medicine, you know, she spent all of her days being neutral, giving unconditional positive regard to patients who had very disturbing things to say. And she would compartmentalize those reactions. But this is just very difficult to look at. You know, this is things that should not be coexisting. And her stomach is churning in a couple of ways. That fear she told the hunter she was past feeling. She feels it a little bit warming the back of her previously very numb mind. You said you lost control. Is that why? Is that where they came from?
What?
Yes. Look, listen, everyone. I'm terribly sorry. If you have any wounds, let me take a look. I can help patch them up.
That's all right.
I push Nihilus against the wall.
Everyone stay calm.
You brought danger to my home? Would I've lived?
You're right. I did. And I'm sorry, Kristoff. I didn't mean to. Mordecai, you see, this someone that's traveling inside me, with me. I spoke my voice. I tried to reason. I was out of bounds, and I was punished for it. He destroyed my body, so I tried to raise it back, and in doing so, I lost control. I raised more than I I could control. And that's where they came from. These soulless husks.
All right.
I think Kristoff lets go. Looks down at his already still changed body himself. Ribcage out. Face torn and reshaped. Kind of like takes a step back.
Thank you, Kristoff. I realize I didn't introduce myself to you as a doctor, which I am. And I highly recommend that everybody just not touch each other right now. You two in particular, actually. She says to Kristoff and Nihilus. Oh, all right. When I healed you before, it didn't go well.
No.
We're both branching out, if you will. So I understand a little better than I did before. I would love to be able to do either a medicine or arcana check to see if she knows anything that she could do to mitigate this situation.
Of Nihilus?
Yeah. His physical person.
Yeah. Roll whichever you think is more appropriate. Tell me which.
I mean, I want to roll medicine because it's slightly higher, but I think this is an arcana check. So I'm going to roll arcana. I think that seems fair. 16 arcana.
Great magics have presented themselves to you. And this is a world where abilities of this caliber are not just uncommon, but unheard of. You, at this point, as a group, may be among the most powerful in the world, and that's just at level 6. Some things come to mind when you look at Nihilus, but perhaps it's the most tragic that comes first. If Nihilus had autonomy and ability and power of his own to choose, then that would be one thing, but if the power that he commands is not his own, then it also means the body that he commands is no longer his own. It's no longer his. To some extent, whatever's holding him together, this great dark energy, is now also his only chance to be a fully formed, walking, bipedal person.
Does Isadora feel her power to be her own, do you think?
Oh, that's another great question. I'm going to have to do an insight check on that. With a DC of 10.
24.
I'll say that works. Delving within yourself, you used to feel empty. Something was missing. You don't feel like that anymore. You feel like something is there. Something that bears weight. And its alignment, perhaps still unclear to you, its raw, unfettered power is clear.
Nihilus, I have to ask you something. When you first joined with Mordecai back in the prison, did you do that? And I need you to think back, to put yourself in that moment. And truly, and I hope that you can accept that I, of all people, am asking this without judgment. Did you do that just to save us? Or did you do that because you wanted to know?
At first, I was freely lured by power, but since we've been on her royal rose, every step we've taken, every life we've taken as a group, as a collective, I feel like I failed as... How can I call myself an inquisitor? my mentor got taken, our friends, we could do nothing. We knew what was gonna happen the moment we stepped out. We knew something bad was gonna happen. That damn Felix is... we could do nothing. We were powerless. In the prison, everything was going sideways again, and I just feel like the current path that I was on, the one I was destined for, isn't truly mine. And I suppose Mordecai was another path. Not sure if it's the right one, but it was just another one.
I've never understood your church, or particularly been respectful towards it, but I also never conflated that with your faith. What happened to your faith, Nihilus? You had power. You had magics. Your church gave you all these words about black and white morality, about peace, and then taught you magics of violence. I never saw you heal anyone. But what you claim to believe, there was never anything wrong with Saurus or knowledge or truth. Can't you remember what you believed in the first place?
I don't know anymore. It's Saurus's teachings. They were there in order to help you become a better man, in order to provide you with the strength to offer a helping hand to others. Yet I've not been able to do that for a single moment on this journey. And if I can't help...
That's because you were set up to fail, Nihilus. You weren't prepared for how complicated it would be.
If I can't help someone else, what's the point of being an inquisitor, being faithful to Saurus?
You've helped me every step of the way, as obnoxious as I've been to you.
Look at where we are. Look what I just did. I'm not helping anyone. I'm just tagging along.
You saved Felix and Sam when I was helpless, and I begged you. Look, I know our friends decided that I was some bloodthirsty, heartless, old crone. No matter how many times I pled for understanding and patience with people, I saw you in Mordecai's mind trap, his world of hatred. Not just that you were the only one who didn't seem to hate me, but I know that the only person you hate is yourself. And, believe it or not, I respect that. I don't think you should stay there. But I think it's a promising starting place, Nihilus, that Mordecai preyed upon.
But at this point, it's too far gone. Look at me.
We're both very far gone. But giving up is not how you be a good person in this world. And you cannot be a good person if you never hate yourself.
I'm not trying to give up. I don't want to give up. I want to end the cycle of this accursed island and its repetitive faith of doom. I want that. I want to stop the feather rot. I want to help people. But I couldn't do so before, so I tried something else, and now it's too late to reverse back.
You have opportunity. All of you have grand opportunity. Look at you all. All of you can walk out of here, find the way out, and accomplish those goals that you have. Motions towards his changed form. I will never see my family. I will never see my sisters, my mother, my father. But you're a man of the cloth, as you said. If you want to feel helpful, say a prayer.
Would I be correct to say that Dr. Glass and everybody else will see Nihilus taking a step aside contemplatively? Nihilus, where are you right now with what you just heard?
His mind is thinking about his biggest mistake. Keeps coming into his mind. Who was that man? Who was that innocent one he knifed to death to become an Inquisitor? How can he do any good? How can he try? It feels like for him, every step he takes becomes even heavier. And if he thinks back, that's where the first knot was, and it's irreversible. He carries it with him, and it just becomes heavier and heavier, and he doesn't know what to do about it. He just feels stuck.
If Nihilus could have anything right now, what would it be?
It would be his Testimonium Veritas, his holy tome, which he got. That taught him what? That is what he still believes in, the Star's Testimonium. Just not the elders, not the people, but the teachings on its own, truth, knowledge. That is what he believes in, and he just gave it up and misses it. And that was the one thing he clung to, and maybe that's why he's been able to carry around with the heavy footsteps, because there was always a dream, there was always the possibility to become better in order to be forgiven for his sins, in order to find a way to help others in the future, to let it not be for naught. But he's given up that path, and he's just...
Would he go back? Is that his want, to go back to that path?
If he could, he feels like it's possible. If he could, he would, yes. This is a mistake. This is wrong, but it's all he's got right now. And if he could wish it back in a second, reverse his actions, he would. Yes, he would.
As you see Nihilus take a few steps to the side, especially with the statement from Christoph. If you're a priest, then pray on it. As you step to the side, you feel the presence of that skull with you. It's now become that ever-looming presence, that feeling you might get when you look to the sky of who is Saurus and what is the Testimonium, and he's out there. That's all that is there. And this is a real question of what kind of campaign is this? Is this the story of our descent into damnation? Or is it the story of redemption? Is redemption possible? I don't think I can answer that question. So instead, I'm going to let the dice. As Nihilus, as you step to the side, you feel yourself step in to that bakery. And just as quickly, you're out of a dark, dank cavern and into the fully formed bakery of your father. He's not there. It's empty. But you're in Stonenvale. And I think this is the big departure from where we are in this campaign. It's what you could have had should you have never come to this island. And you feel as though someone's about to walk through the door. And you think you know who that might be. You have a moment to take in your surroundings.
For some reason, he feels like it's his childhood friend, Pebbles. The one that we got shipped off to the war efforts, and he hadn't been in contact since. They were always friends because they both got picked on for, red hair. It's what happens when you're a child. And I don't know why, but I guess that's his comfort.
He comes in. Is he a child or is he an adult?
At this point, he's about the same age as Nihilus, but it's been more than 12 years, at least.
Nihilus.
This. Why, I certainly must be dreaming. That's you, Pebbles. You look horrible. Absolutely disgusting.
He looks down, seeing your full form. Yeah, I mean, you look great.
Don't I always? Well, I guess you won the war then. Or you too chicken to come back. Probably faked a disease, didn't you?
No. He looks at you in the eyes, and that no told you everything you need to know. He didn't win the war. He didn't come back from it. And you have a tether on many things. And some of them are souls. You can feel his just as much as you felt it when you were a child.
I'm not gonna see you ever, am I?
I'm here.
Yes, you are. Well, how you doing? I'm horrible. Couldn't be worse.
You're amazing that you can do this. That you can bring me here. That's incredible.
Is it? It's, if you think about it, it's a simple calculation. The soul is pure energy. It's so point.
Why me? Of all the people you could talk to.
Because I suppose you were my first regret. When we came of age, we were both servants of Source Testimonium, always pranking about, and we studied together for the Kata examinamus. And I went through it with flying colors, and it's all I could think about. Being the priest that we were raised for. And then I looked behind, and there you were. You didn't make it. You had to be shipped off to the war. I should have joined you. Or convinced them something. Perhaps we could have went to another town, redid it. We could have...
What are you talking about? And he shoves you. What are you talking about? You could have joined me. Look at you. You're alive. I'm not saying have sympathy for me because I'm dead. I mean, you would have just been dead with me.
You... Who knows? Perhaps I could have changed things. They taught me a few spells. Surely I could have done something. And you got chipped off. What? What does it even do? To expand territory for a master mythical book that is just out lost in the sea by a devil. What? We're invading a land that is not even connected to water.
That's true. Why, though? Why am I here?
I thought maybe if I saw you, maybe, I don't know, maybe I could learn from you what to do better, what to do next time. I don't know, maybe I never had to explain myself when I was with you. I could just be me, and we had the whole world. We could face the whole world together. We could have done anything. Now everything seems the opposite. I can't do anything, and you lost. You always knew the way, even though you might have went backwards, flipped it, broke all your bones in the meantime, falling out of the tree. But you always knew the way. And I can't even see the way.
Come here. And he puts his arm around your shoulder and walks with you to the window in the door to the shop. And you look out on the street that's bustling, and sitting in a bench across the street, looking out in a different direction, is that same younger, more cheery-eyed version of Mordecai. That's it? This is what you're afraid of?
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, no, not really. That doesn't look so scary. Probably talk to the man, but I don't know. I just have different opinions on things, I guess, and then it's easier to just do as he says. That's all.
I think you should ask yourself, Nihilus, who is Mordecai to you in the same way who is Saurus?
I mean, well, Saurus is easy. He's long gone. It's his teachings that remained. He was a god that sacrificed himself to help others. That is what the Saurus Testimonium is about. Helping those who need to be helped. And the teachings, the book, all it does is just teach you how to be a better man. And be a better person. How to have strength.
I don't think that the Lazarus Testimonium has ever truly taught anybody how to be a better person. I think that they taught you to become a priest, an inquisitor. They taught me to fight. I think if you're going to learn something, then just do it for a good reason.
Right. Well, I thought Saurus taught me the difference between right and wrong, but I guess when I was actually faced with the dilemma, when I was actually face to face with the right and wrong, I didn't know the answer. And I went along with it. And then I guess I forgot where I turned the exit. How am I supposed to know right from wrong myself? I just want to help people.
Sometimes we make decisions that can't be undone.
I just want to see people smile. Smile like you did.
Like I did. I still do. But we can't go back. We can only go forward.
Right. I know that.
I'm not here by your doing. He looks outside. I don't know why I've been brought here. I'm glad. And he squeezes in a little tighter around your shoulder.
He hugs tightly back.
But he's the one who put me here. And I think it's time to start searching for answers rather than asking questions.
He nods, wipes away at his face. Yeah, I guess you're right. You mind if we sit here for a second or two?
Yeah. He pulls one of the chairs out, the tables in this bakery, and he sits down quietly along with you as you sit down. Everybody else you see as Nihilus steps away contemplatively. Time is not going to pass about the same way.
Nihilus holds on. This is both simultaneously in the other dimension and with his real-life body. He holds on to his holy amulet, and he gives, perhaps not, who knows, a final prayer. Almighty Saurus, you've taught me a lot. Knowledge and of light. You guided me through the shadows of the night. Granted me strength as I seek your sacred home. You illuminated our path, always to home. And it is in your name that I started forth this journey with faith unshaken. For it was always your wisdom that kept my spirit awakened. And he pulls off the holy amulet right from his neck.
Slowly and intentionally, Mordecai sitting on that bench with true curiosity turns his head toward the bakery, as we'll end the session.